Oh my lord! Hi. It's a me, Mario. No, I'm just kidding. It's Corbin. I was gonna take another week off, but I got a message earlier this week from our guest today. So they wanted to come on and talk about going to Japan. And I said, who am I? Who am I to deny bandwidth to such a beloved guest, a handsome man, a man of the soil, I think I'd say.
Yep.
Spike Friedman. Spike, how you doing?
It's an honor. As always, I'm doing quite well. And yeah, I had to hop on here to talk about the Colt Swallows versus Hiroshima Carp game I went to. Let me tell you, Nori Aoki, good to see him in person again.
Oh, that's fun.
Vladimir Ballantyne, a former Mariners prospect who flamed out in Seattle and is now like a record-setting Japanese home run hitter. It's good to see him again. So, I really need to come on, talk some Japanese baseball strategy with you, if you will.
Was it like, does it have different energy than American baseball?
Wait. Yeah, so when we'll get into what I'm actually here to talk about.
But we're gonna
not for a while.
Yeah, we're
not
gonna
for hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. Like, so when someone's batting, their fans like sing a song for them. And
what?
Everybody's got a different song.
What?
Some of the songs have choreographed dances to them, and some of the dances feature choreography with umbrellas going up and down. So it was the best. I loved it.
Wow, jeez.
Come on.
Say what you will about Americans. We are lazy, shiftless bags of garbage.
Yeah, say what you will about them, but we are that.
We're terrible. Like, could you, you're fucking telling me Joey Votto doesn't deserve a coordinated song and dance?
He does. He's really good at baseball.
Yeah, or Yasiel Puig.
Oh my god. Well, and in England, like, a guy scores a goal, they got a song for him. They don't sing it every time he touches the ball because, it's England compared to other places still garbage. But
yeah, oh yeah, for sure.
Something. What do we can barely do the clap your hands. Like, we can barely pull that off.
Clap your hands.
Hate it.
We don't deserve clap your hands.
No. We can barely do a wave, and then we do the wave, which is bad too. So it's double whammy.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
I don't hate the wave.
You don't hate it?
Nah.
I don't know that I hate it, but it's not good. I'm not like, oh yeah, the wave.
All right, okay. I want you to eliminate everything you have in your head about American sports fans, sports, anything.
Okay.
Did you do it?
Give me like 3. Okay.
Okay. Is watching the wave happen when you're in the crowd fun?
Kinda.
When it comes around to you and you get to go, "Hua!" Is that fun?
So, I was just at a Dodger game, and let me tell you, as a kid, my parents, very anti-wave people. Not wave people at all. Wouldn't stand up, wouldn't react.
Wow.
On principle.
Did they, sit there with their hands crossed and, there's, grouchy frowns on their face?
They'd actually pull out New Yorker magazines and chortle at the comics within them when the wave came around.
Wow. The exact opposite of the wave.
Yes, exactly. And be like, yes, a psychiatrist. But I now am at the point where I'm not standing up, but I'm doing a little arms up. You can't podcast, not a great visual medium, but it's sort of like a half-hearted. But the arms are going up, a little wrist flick at the end to make sure the palms are showing. That's about the amount of wave energy I can bring at this point.
You don't think it's fun to watch?
It's okay, but it's also like rough to watch like people start it badly or like start it from a section where it can't start from.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? Because like you have to do it from a section that covers the whole top to bottom, where you can't start it. But then like one drunk idiot is like, "We're gonna do it from the top corner," and it doesn't work for like 20 minutes, and then one guy in the bleachers figures it out. But it's like that is like miserable and distracting, and like you're like, "Oh, is it gonna come? I'm gonna have to do it." No. And I just feel like it's a lack of collective energy, and it's a bummer in that regard.
You feel do you feel like it almost represents, society? We've got all these problems.
Yeah.
And like there's one drunk guy up there going, "Come on!
Yeah.
Let's fix our problems."
And we're gonna do it by yelling.
Whoa! I'm looking at a New Yorker cartoon right now. I had an issue near me. Not to brag or anything. I subscribe.
Okay.
And it's a bunch of people at a picnic.
Hmm?
And then there's a woman with a skirt and a tank top, and she says, "Nothing says summer like mayonnaise-based salads congealing in the heat."
Okay. I'm like afraid to react as negatively as I am. I know one New Yorker cartoonist, not to brag,
Wow.
and honestly, that sounds like it could be their brand of humor. So I don't want to come in too hot on how much I hate that. But I don't like it.
Okay, here's the next one. There's a fella. He has a dog on a leash.
Yes, I like. Already in.
And then there's another fella he's speaking to, and this fella has a youth, as a child, poking him in the back with a tiny sword. And then the guy with the dog is saying, "Why are people with kids always telling everyone to have kids?"
Okay. Okay.
There's a very long Chris Ware comic in here, too, which is kind of... It's just like, oh, it's just kind of weird to have, like, a good comic in a New Yorker,
Yeah. It is what it is.
All right, I'm looking at one that I think is kind of funny. Okay?
Okay, great.
Okay.
Should we do something where, like, you describe it to me and I guess the caption, or is that stupid? Is that a terrible idea?
Yeah. Oh, no. You know what? How about... Yeah, I'll do that. It's, okay. All right, there's one woman... talking to another woman who has a hat on, and there's some rocks in the yard where they're talking. So what's the caption?
Okay, so I'm in the realm of what I want to do, but because like I want it to be like good fences make good neighbors, but it's good hats make good neighbors.
I'm sorry, it's not good hats make good neighbors.
Okay. I feel like I took an honest stab at it.
It's her saying they're all native to the region. About the rocks.
Sure.
I think that's kind of funny.
I guess. I mean, are they? The rocks native to the region?
Well, who knows? But the joke is that like you say that about plants.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Yeah.
But, like, if you were a geologist, you'd be like, no, they're not. Or, yes, they are. They probably are. I guess that's the joke. But, like, also people truck rocks in.
That's true. But I think that's the joke, Spike.
Oh, okay.
Like, this New Yorker... Like, the other two didn't really have jokes.
Yeah. No.
This one kind of had a joke.
Sure.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Ay. How are the Mariners doing?
I'll be honest. I haven't watched a game in, what is it? It's August something right now. I don't think I've watched a complete Mariners game, all like sitting down, inning 1 to inning 9 since May. With
shorts on.
I'm wearing shorts right now, baby.
Yeah, no, I'm not surprised. But you got to wear shorts when you watch baseball.
Oh, yeah. You cover up those calves, and it's like you might as. I mean, you got to wear pants to play baseball, but you got to wear shorts to watch baseball. Opposite of basketball.
They should let players wear shorts.
Well, again, opposite of basketball.
Did you see that Reds game?
Opposite of basketball. Yeah, which Reds game? The one where they fought?
No, the one where they but that was Reds have had an eventful season. No, the one where they all wore tank tops.
Oh yeah.
That was so tight.
That's like pretty good.
Yeah.
That Reds game was the song of the summer. You know
Also,
what I mean?
Puig. Whew.
Yeah.
Man. Jeez.
Guns.
Bazookas.
Gun show. He was famously kidnapped on his way to America, so good for him.
Yeah. Puig has when Puig flexes, one of his biceps says Raytheon and the other one says Lockheed.
Oh. Okay. The
saying,
Mariners, just so you know, are the worst team in their division, but they're the 5th worst team in the American League. So they managed to be like completely irrelevant, but also we're going to get like the 9th pick in the draft. So that tells you where things are.
I mean, come on, the baseball draft though. You're really gonna apply basketball logic to the baseball draft?
I'm just saying, if you're gonna be bad, don't win 41% of your games.
All right, Sam.
That's just a catastrophic.
Right, I didn't know I was having a conduit for neoliberal capitalism on the show today.
No. It's more I hate them. It's more that I hate this because it's so uninteresting. It's like the most uninteresting amount of baseball to do. Like, they can't do anything interesting at that point. They aren't going to, like, fail in a way that's funny. They're not going to, like, throw the ball to somewhere weird. They're going to throw the ball to normal places most of the time. But they're also not going to, like, hit the ball anywhere fun or pitch good. Mm-hmm. That's my analysis of this garbage Mariners team. Okay. From, like, basically just...
Where's a fun place to hit the ball?
Up high, so it bounces off the roof of the Tropicana Stadium in Tampa, St. Pete. Place. I'd say off the foul pole, home run off the foul pole. That's a fun one. Mm-hmm. Just past the glove of a diving shortstop. Mm-hmm. That's a good one.
How do you feel about? There's a matronly old woman who's just baked a pie.
Oh.
And she's walking past the stadium, and the ball flies out of the stadium and into her pie.
Amazing. That's a great place to hit a baseball. You know who would never hit a baseball there?
Who?
The Seattle Mariners.
Wow. What team would?
Never putting a ball in a pie. The best they're doing in that regard is some guy's eating popcorn in the stadium, and they hit a ball near him. And he doesn't either drop the popcorn or catch the ball with the popcorn, but he does a little whoa.
Yeah,
like, that's the
and spills some of the popcorn.
It's bad. Mm-hmm. It's a bad and boring baseball team that I hate, but also they're the only team I like. Sucks. Why do you, man?
You don't like try to like the Dodgers? That's what I would do if I were you.
I like the Dodgers. I go to Dodger games and I clap when they score, but like deep in my heart, it's just like a fun night. It's not like feelings.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like the difference between like going and seeing Hobbs and Shaw. Like, to me, the Dodgers are Hobbs and Shaw, and the Mariners are if Lars von Trier took over the Paddington franchise.
I saw Antichrist in the theater.
That's good, man. I feel like we might have talked about this on the air before.
We did?
I don't know. This sounds really familiar to me.
Oh.
That you saw Antichrist in the theater. Or maybe you talk. I don't know. How was Antichrist in the theaters?
Good. I mean, good's a weird word for it. But this is what I'll say. Like, you're not ready for the scene where the fox is eating its own guts. And then it looks up and says, "Chaos reigns." Like, you're not, like, like, the second that happens, you're like, price of admission right there, baby.
How did I not? I've never seen Antichrist.
Oh, well, there's a scene
I'm watching the GIF of this right now.
where Willem Dafoe is looking at a fox eating its own guts, if I recall, and then it looks up, and there's like this like crazy music cue, and then it says "Chaos Reigns."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, and tell me if I'm segueing too aggressively, and you can stop me. You can undo this, but
there is something that makes chaos reign. Is that where we're going?
Well, I was gonna say, like, the closest thing I've ever seen in person to this fox, and I'm watching the GIF of it now, and it is both adorable and horrifying. Turning to me,
really is a cute boy.
Yeah. Oh, what a pretty baby.
Chaos
and looks
reigns.
Paddington, if I'm honest, gives me the confidence that Lars von Trier could take over the Paddington.
Yeah, well,
franchise.
he could at least do the technical aspects of it.
Give him the whole thing. If you're giving it to him, you got to give him script. You got to give him final cut.
Chaos
but
reigns.
The closest thing I've seen to this is when Shinzo Abe, when I was in Japan at the 1 year to go press event run by the IOC and JOC, Shinzo Abe like struts into the room. Shinzo Abe, of course, the Prime Minister of Japan, trips, almost falls on his face, and ends up being caught in the waiting arms of Thomas Bach.
That's the president of the International Olympic Committee, as I recall.
It is, and then Thomas Bach turns and goes, "Pretty athletic save." Yeah, it was rough. Can I say that? I guess I'm here, and I know that I'm here. You're letting me be here to talk about the Olympic
Bud
trip.
Selig's biography.
But
sorry, I just have my copy right here. It was what came to mind.
I didn't say that this meeting that had like all the governors of various prefectures in Japan, it had the Prime Minister of Japan, it had like a bunch of the whole board of the IOC was there, and they let journalists in, and like everybody else was at like a table with like waters and a notebook or whatever.
Were you there as a journalist?
Yeah.
For who?
I don't know when this is coming out, but you're about to read 3,200 words on this from me on a little blog called Deadspin.
Oh.
I was not there as a journalist, FYI.
Must be nice.
Yeah, we can talk about this off the air.
No, I mean, I'm probably going to write something about it for them too, sooner or later, but go ahead.
Good. But we... So I was like, we were emailing about this, you and I was like, I really want to get into this official meeting, but the only way I can get in is as a journalist. Do you have something? And you were just like, editors, and so I technically covered this. You event.
Also know editors, Spike.
Yeah. Well, so I technically covered the official IOC event as a reporter for Paste Magazine. As a political blogger for Paste Magazine, where I occasionally write. And yeah, so they let me in as a journalist, but the journalist, and I was sitting next to this woman from like basically one of the biggest papers in Japan, which is like Asahi, weirdly. They're a sponsor of the Olympics. And she was sitting next to me on the floor where they had all the journalists sitting in the back corner on the floor. No chairs, no water, no food, no nothing.
Wow.
And I was
they let raccoons loose to... Yeah,
a fox jumped in my lap and yelled, "Chaos reigns." And I was horrified. I was like, is this normal to this woman? And she's like, IOC. I was like, what? What? They just have you sit, and it wasn't like, because in Japan, you might know, there's some sitting on the floor that happens.
Have you read The Power Broker? I don't know if we talked about this or not.
I feel like we haven't. I've read large chunks of The Power Broker.
One of the sort of recurring themes in The Power Broker is that Moses is really, really good with the media. And so part of the reason he gets to do all these kind of terrible things and stupid things is that he has made an image of himself where he's this sort of benevolent, apolitical actor with the media. So if anybody tries to say, like, please don't tear down our buildings, Mr. Moses, he just goes to the reporters and he's like, they are impeding progress. and the reporters just sort of mimic this back to them. The IOC is like with this play, they're like, we don't even need reporters.
No,
this is how benevolent we are.
Yeah.
Who doesn't love the Olympics, man?
Yeah, it was genuinely wild. And again, you sit on the floor in Japan more than you do in America, but they did not have mat set. This was a hotel ballroom where I popped on the corner of where the cameras were set up, so I had a little lift, which for me is nice. There was so much. I don't even know where to begin talking about this trip.
Okay. Let's begin with a very brief thing to say. Listen to the last Spike Friedman episode if you want all the context in the world about what we're going to be talking about.
Yes.
But today, Spike is going to be talking about a more specific event. Can you tell us why you were there? And who you were there with?
Yes. So I was there. So you might know me from, I don't know, writing about sports or something, or talking to Corbin.
Ubiquitous they.
Yeah, if you were a big Seattle sketch comedy fan in 2009 to 2013, you might know me from that.
Yeah.
But what I'm doing now is I'm currently a researcher on urban planning, and I also organize with a group called NoOlympics in Los Angeles that opposes the games. The Olympic Games are coming to Tokyo 1 year from now, or a little under 1 year from now.
And it is a bad idea.
It is not a good idea. You might have noticed in the week after I left from Tokyo, 54 people died of heat, including one of the people building the national stadium. Just died of heat at the construction site. It was too hot for him, and he died. He was constructing unto death. So that's how hot it is in Tokyo in the summer. I was sweating. It was wild. It was absolutely 90% humidity, 90-degree temperatures are the norm. That's
it's swamp ass.
It was. They had washing machines everywhere I stayed in garbage hotels or whatever. Because I'm not a fancy boy. But they had washing machines in your hotel room. I'm like, wow, what a luxury. I was like, no, you are going to sweat through everything you own. Stuff in your bag is going to be sweat through before it even hits your body. It was gross. But I was there so the anti-Olympics opposition in Tokyo is sort of made up of two groups. Hongoran no Kai, which is a lot of work with the unhoused population there, and then Okatawa Link, which is more academic, politician, professional activist. Not really professional activist. That isn't really a thing in Japan. But serious Marxist thinkers of Japan who oppose the Olympics on more intellectual grounds. There's a strong anti-imperial push among their group, which I didn't know about. But of course, you know what I mean? They oppose the fact that Japan still has an emperor in the wake of World War II. And it's oh yeah, I'd be mad about that too, but it's not something I'd ever thought about, and I didn't think about it in terms of Olympic opposition, but for them it's a deeply connected thing, and that's something I learned about. What they did was host a week of events. There were seminars, there were strategy discussions, there were public protests, and this all coincided with the IOC coming to town and doing sort of their official dog and pony show around the Olympics. Some of what we also got to do was take tours of the stadium venues under construction and tours of the area around Fukushima, which was really heartbreaking, I think is the word for what the Fukushima situation is in Japan right now. And I guess I can start by talking about that a little bit, because of this IOC event where Shinzo Abe almost fell on his face. They and certainly there wasn't press Q&A.
This IOC event where Shinzo Abe almost fell on his fucking face.
I do sound like a Batman villain when you make my voice like that. Tom Wilkinson in Batman Begins. Hey, you think you're gonna come down here and clean up the Narrows?
Oh yeah. Oh, I was trying to remember, he was like a second tier villain in that movie, right?
Yeah, he was like, I'm a crime boss, and your dad got shot. And
Sort of like Eric Roberts in The Dark Knight.
Yes. What are you gonna do about it? You're just one stupid Batman. Anyway,
those movies really don't. You know,
where are you going with this?
They don't really have the same spine they did at the time.
I like it. I like it. Batman Begins.
You like The Dark Knight?
I'm not gonna put on The Dark Knight.
Yeah, Ledger's great.
Yeah, Ledger's. It's long.
It is long. Anyway, continue.
Long. Batman Begins. Very good. So I'm at this event, and the only people who get to talk are like governors, the prime minister, the heads of the IOC, the director of the movie Your Name. Weirdly, apparently he's working on the opening ceremony. Mm-hmm. There's like a team of like 6 really like famous Japanese artists who are working on the opening ceremony, and like one woman who's like making a documentary about the event. She's like leading up their, I don't know, the JOC equivalent of NFL films. Mm-hmm. And everybody like took shots at her for being like a young woman. It was great and super patronizing and very patriarchal and disgusting. Everyone's like, look at how young she is. I can't believe she's doing anything. And I was like, oh my God.
Is this so like much. The IOC documentary?
Yeah.
Like The Everlasting Flame.
Exactly.
Or Olympia. But
yeah, they were just taking shots at the Japanese Leni Riefenstahl.
It is hard to hear like, oh, the young woman making an Olympics film without thinking.
Well, I'm sure that being incredibly patronizing to her in a public venue won't build a everlasting flame of hate in her heart.
Yeah, probably.
But that's neither here nor there. What I will say is that literally everybody who spoke talked about the Olympics as the recovery games.
I've been doing a bunch of, before we get to this, I've been doing a bunch of reading about the Olympics lately because I'm trying to dip my toe in. And do you know that Germany came up with the torch relay?
I did know that.
And they just keep doing it, huh?
Yeah. Dude. Germany came up with a lot of what makes up the modern Olympic Games. Yeah. And not just any Germany. We should be clear.
Nazi Germany.
Yeah. 1936 Germany. We're not talking Munich. We're not talking Eric Bana.
Yeah. I'm talking Eric Bana, just because I love to talk about him.
Eric Bana. You rewatched Eric Bana's Hulk recently?
No, but I've seen it more than once.
Okay. Where Nick Nolte becomes a lightning god at the end?
Mm-hmm. Well, he's absorbing, man. Show a little respect.
Nick Nolte. For the way I read that film, and I think of myself as a cinematiste. I don't know where that word. But Nick Nolte is playing himself in that film.
Yeah, a little bit.
That's practical. That's all practical effects.
This is what I think about that Hulk movie.
Yep.
A lot of good ideas.
Hmm?
Could be entertaining though.
It's really boring.
Like that could you could have like made an entertaining movie. But this thing where they're like this guy is so repressed. It's comic book panels. The Hulk, he looks like a comic book Hulk. Like a lot of that is like, this is fun, this is interesting, but boy, it's a little dull.
It's a dull one. You know how the Hulk becomes the Hulk is like radioactivity or whatever.
Well, gamma radiation.
Yeah. You know where there's still a lot of radioactivity?
Fukushima. Go ahead.
Fukushima. They were talking about this being the recovery games, and
oh boy.
Well, there's like so much that's wrong with that. First of all, they're like,
I hate the Olympics so much.
They are starting the torch run in Fukushima.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
And so,
are they lighting it off of like a green flame?
Well, they're literally starting it at J Village, which was the Japanese national team for soccer, their training facility, which sits very close to the nuclear reactor that melted down and became like sort of the operations headquarter for the recovery, and still is. So they're starting the torch run there. There's not like any hotels or anything. Like, they're clearly going to drive up and start the torch run there and then get out, because there are pockets of radiation around J Village that are still not lethal, but genuinely harmful for human health to be in for any amount of time. Mm-hmm. When you're up there, you wear a Geiger counter around your neck. Like, that's the deal.
Does it ever go off?
It goes up, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, boy.
Like, just on the road, it goes up. And, like, you don't... And, like, so they've been... there's so much here. But, like, there are... The way it works is it isn't, like, tight concentric circles of radiation. It is that on aggregate, but in reality, it's more like... what's the Tarkovsky film where they, like, go in...
Stalker.
Yes. So it's more like Stalker in that there's, like, pockets of radiation. Ironically, everyone from Stalker died of radiation, but that's...
Wait, they did?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, Stalker killed the lead and the director, because they had to reshoot it after the government destroyed the first
cut. Didn't kill the director. Tarkovsky made more movies.
You sure on that?
Yeah, 1 minute.
Yeah, he died in 1986.
When was Stalker, man? What?
1979. He made one more movie after that. But he died of weird cancer. Anyway, neither here nor there. What's happening in Fukushima is there are pockets that are relatively less bad. And this is around the nuclear reactor. And when you picture Fukushima, what you need to know is that when you talk about Fukushima, you could be talking about three different things. You could be talking about Fukushima City, which is a city about 100 kilometers away from the nuclear reactor. You could be talking about the evacuation zone, which is like the area at like a 25-kilometer semicircle around the reactor where most of the danger still lies. Or you could be talking about the prefecture of Fukushima, which is bigger than New Jersey. Mm-hmm. So it's important to know that when they talk about, like, there will be Olympic events in Fukushima, only the torch run is starting anywhere near the reactor. It's sort of starting on the periphery of that 25-kilometer zone, and they are running dead away from it and never coming back. Because that area is still really, really scary. And there's just tons of radioactive material in these giant black sealed bags all over the landscape. And there are people who are doing that bagging work. And those are like, it's vestiges of a caste system, and it's immigrants. And those are the people who do that labor. So it's like a really ugly manifestation of like class on the landscape. And what they've been doing in order to promote this as the recovery games is any town that's like in a safe pocket, they're like, the federal government is pressuring the local government to be like, you got to declare this good to go. We got to open up as many of these towns as possible before the Olympics. And it's like, yeah, okay, your like little area is safe. But imagine if, like, you living there and, like, but it's like the next town over is, like, you cannot go there because it is genuinely harmful for your health because of radioactivity.
But material. There's a billion people in your...
And when you have to move back to your house, you have to wear a Geiger counter around your neck all the time to make sure you're not taking in too much radiation and it's going to kill you. And when they offer this to you, here's the rub. So they're like, all right, we pressured the mayor. The mayor's opening up the town. Now, you, person who used to live in this town, you got two options. Move back and wear a Geiger counter around your neck and be scared all the time because, you know, the next town over is radioactive. Or lose all of your relocation funding because we declared your old house safe, so we aren't going to pay for you to live anywhere else now. So that's super great. And the only reason they're doing it on this tight timeline is to get as much open as possible before the 2020 Olympics. Mm-hmm. So that sucks. It's a real bummer.
How far is Fukushima from Tokyo?
It's like a 4-hour drive. Okay. So like, yeah, it's, I don't know, Seattle to Portland.
Well, Seattle to Portland's 3 hours, but okay.
Give or take. I mean, yeah, but traffic.
Look, I love pedantry.
That Joint-based Lewis McCord, sometimes it slows down around there.
You know what? That is true. It does.
I know.
Why is there always traffic at Lewis?
It's weird. I think it's that the freeway gets narrow there, and they're always rolling a tank down.
So they need to widen the freeway, huh? Is that it? Wow.
Nailed me to the wall. Nailed me to the wall.
All right, Moses.
That's one piece of the Fukushima thing. The other piece is they're talking like we are going to have events in Fukushima. We're going to be playing baseball there.
Why are they Why? Why?
Well, they're doing that in Fukushima City, which is 100 kilometers away from the actual meltdown. It's basically like being like, oh man, 3 Mile Island recovered because we're playing baseball games in Pittsburgh. Or like, hey, Chernobyl recovered, and I use this in my Deadspin piece, but whatever, because we're playing football matches in Kiev. Like, that's the sort of distance that we're talking about between where the events are and where the actual disaster happened. The areas where they're having events, no one was ever evacuated. Like, nothing changed there. Like, they just got hit by an earthquake. So it's like, they're calling it one thing, but what they're counting on is when Bob Costas rolls into town or whoever from NBC, they're not going to put a map up on the screen that shows you how ridiculous these assertions are, that anything about having a baseball game at a baseball stadium that has been operating... They're
just going to say, can you believe what this was like recently? And now we're having a baseball game here.
Exactly. And like, when you're there on the ground, it's like, oh, this is a con. This is just a con job. And my favorite detail of all of this is in Tokyo Bay, there is one ward. Like, Tokyo Bay is touched by a number of wards in the city of Tokyo, which has a very complicated governmental structure that I'm not going to get into because I barely understand it. But it's divided into wards. I guess think New York boroughs, maybe, is the way to think about it.
Are they smaller than boroughs, though?
They might be, yeah. But I know. I was trying to not get... I don't know. But one of the wards... A bunch of wards touch Tokyo Bay. One of the wards accepted a bunch of radioactive dirt to bury in their landfill. They've been having to dig that dirt up to build a temporary rowing facility.
Oh, yeah, of course.
The guy who made that, who approved that, was at this IOC event, and he was the only person critical of the IOC. Why was he critical of the IOC? Because he believes
that they could have left the dirt there.
Who are coming to the country are not going to have enough contact with the children. I don't know, man. I don't know.
Sorry, the athletes
are not going to have enough contact with the children. It won't be inspiring enough for the children because they're not going to be able to touch the athletes. I don't know. But he was like the only critical voice in that room, and it was not enough athlete to child contact, and it was weird. And like,
I mean, LeBron should.
Like, the only reason I looked up who this guy was because I was like, wow, someone's being critical in the craziest way possible. Who is this guy? And literally, like, the third result in English language Google was like, oh, he's the guy who let them put radioactive material in Tokyo.
Huh. I mean, it's definitely 10th, but I am worried that children aren't being inspired enough by the Olympics.
I know, right? If you were to rank right now, Corbin, what your concerns about the Tokyo Olympics
Well, honestly, I don't even think I was deep knowledge on the radiation stuff, but now that's number one.
Oh wait, can I give you my number one?
Oh, sure. What is it?
The facial scan robots.
Okay. I'm actually going to put that at 2 because I mean, there's just facial scan robots everywhere now. What are you going to do?
So in California, in San Francisco, they've banned facial recognition.
Oh, that's cute.
In Tokyo, they have not done that. In fact, to go to an Olympic event, when you pick up your tickets, they are going to scan your face, and then your face will be your ticket.
Oh.
But what they're also deploying are roving robots called Reborg X's, and I met one.
Borg, huh? Borg?
Yeah. Reborg.
Just had to use the word Borg, huh?
So, Corbin, do you have any connotation when I say Reborg X?
No.
No, you got nothing. Seems fine.
Borg, the Star Trek villain.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have anything with Re and X.
That's fine.
What do you have?
I don't know. It's the Star Trek villain. You do it again, then you static.
You're
X.
re-Borging something.
I don't know. Yeah.
It's like if you had 7 of 9 who got deborged.
And then you reborg her. She's 14 of 18.
Jesus Christ.
Yes. You love it. You're so glad you're not taking the week off.
Yeah. It's wonderful.
14 18. This was all a setup for me to make the 14 of 18 joke. Yeah. That's my time. I see the line.
Thanks. You've been a great audience. Eat your wife's pussy.
Oh boy.
That's what I would say if I was leaving the stage.
Would you believe, Corbin? Reborg X's are made by not the government, not like a tech company, but by a private security company. Would you believe that?
I would be stunned.
Yeah.
If you are going to tell me that's the case,
yeah,
I'm going to be furious.
Yeah. And they're going to roll them out in all the airports and public venues in Tokyo over the next year?
You're telling me that Tokyo is using the Olympics as a pretense to install security state apparatus that will perhaps violate people's civil liberties?
I'm not... would you believe that the company that makes the Reborg X, Alsoc, was founded in 1965, which is the year after the 1964 Tokyo Olympic Games, by the head of the organizing committee of the 1964 Tokyo Games?
Spike, that seems like you're making that up.
Well, let me tell you, it's true. Would you believe that Alsoc is the sponsor of the Olympics and the Japanese judo team? Would you believe that?
I would believe the Olympics, but I think the judo team has too much integrity for that.
Well, buddy, I got bad news.
What?
On your judo team.
Yeah. Poison judo?
Yeah. Would you believe that at the IOC 1 Year to Go event, where they had like a big festival outside where all the sponsors set up a booth, this private security firm had a booth set up. Alsoc. And you'd walk over, and they were, like, handing out T-shirts and pens and stuff. And I was like, can I get a T-shirt?
The pens have microphones in them? Or?
Well, maybe. Jeez. I think I actually have a pen. But they were like, no, you can't just have a T-shirt. You have to take a picture. Wait for it. You have to take a picture with this cardboard cutout of a judo athlete. And I was like, okay, that's ridiculous. But they were like, and if you're a child... And I took some pictures of this. If you're a child, you have to take a picture with the cardboard cutout of the judo athlete, but you have to wear Alsoc branded riot gear and hold a billy club. They literally were dressing up children in riot gear to promote their private security company at the official Olympic event.
That sounds really adorable.
It was very cute and horrifying.
What if all riot squads were just children? Like, it would probably work better, right? I mean, at the very least, you would hurt.
You'd do what?
I don't know. I guess you could just get a bunch of kids beat up. Now that I'm sitting here thinking about it, but
I don't know. You arm them enough.
What? Like you give them a gun?
Wow.
Jeez.
This is your idea. I'm just hoping you.
Okay, look, it's not a good idea. I hope you're happy. Okay, so third. So I had a friend who was just in Japan, and I was at a comedy show with her the other day, and I was speaking to her about her time in Japan. And the Olympics came up because sometimes I talk about the Olympics with people, and I say things like, they're bad. And then they go, wow, really? But she was mentioning that when she was in Tokyo, that the subways there, a lot of people use them.
It's true.
Like a lot. Like apparently... they arrive every 5 minutes, and every time they're crowded to the gills.
Yeah. Can verify.
This is all to say, Tokyo, by reputation, is a very crowded place. And there's something about the logistics of inviting an unbelievable amount of people there for an event that feels like a bad idea.
Yeah.
I would call this my fourth or third concern. What's up with that?
Well, I will say this, that Tokyo has their goal with this, and I'd argue it's a little problematic. It's just me. I'm that sort of guy who argues those sorts of things. But I would argue that it's a little problematic because the way that they are going about dealing with this is essentially quarantining foreign tourists. They are turning areas of the city that used to be just like parts of the city into areas that are particularly hospitable for foreign tourists and money. And that has involved the mass enclosure of public spaces in those areas so that they can remove, say, poor, unhoused folks, sort of, take away their rights. They used to rehouse unhoused folks. Now they just don't do that. They're just like, your park is gone. We've literally fenced it in. We're building a building on it. And in order to get around any laws around it, we're going to put a park on top of the building that you have to, scan an ID card to get into.
What?
Yeah. And, who's going to sponsor that park? A little company from Oregon called Nike.
Oh, yeah. Wow, wonderful.
Pretty cool.
I have a lot of friends who work over there.
Hell yeah, baby. Beaverton, Oregon.
Beaverton has a very good pals.
It has a very good what?
Pals.
Powell's. Oh, yeah.
At the bookstore.
Yeah, sorry. I knew what you meant. But so that's, and then the other thing they've done is displace a ton of small local businesses in one fell swoop and be like, this building that you've had a business in for a long, you don't get to be there anymore. You're gone. You're done.
Last time we talked about this, we talked a lot about how local committees use the Olympics to reform a space.
Yes.
In their image. Is that this?
Yes.
Is there a collective interest of people in Tokyo who are like, we need good foreigner areas?
Yeah, and it is department store companies and developers and global money coming in. Yeah, and it's American money to a degree, but it's also local Japanese money. It's a little different than some of the issues. It's interesting. Some of the displacement issues are a little different than in America because land holds value in different ways than here because Japan is they're doing it a little better than we are. So most people's primary means of accruing wealth is not their artificially inflated housing values.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
You know what I mean?
Jeez,
so
cold. My house is actually worth exactly what the market says it is, sir.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry to have offended you. I know you're a big market boy out there.
Oh, am I ever?
Daddy market.
I've been reading you hear this book Empire of Cotton?
I haven't read Empire of Cotton. How is it?
It's good. Some parts get a little dry, if I'm being honest with you, but the parts that aren't dry are bone rattling because it's about how the trade and manufacture of cotton and cotton goods was the sort of spine of the development of international capitalism. Mm-hmm. Blah blah blah. And why was I talking about that?
I don't know. Cotton.
Anyways, and about how slavery was sort of an essential tool of the development of early capitalism. Anyway,
yeah.
I don't know why I was talking about that. I apologize to the audience.
No, it's fun. I mean, it's worth talking about always. Yeah. That our current economic system is built on the backs of people who are not compensated for it, whether it's prisoners or racially defined underclasses or in the past slaves. That's always worth saying on a sports podcast.
Mm-hmm. Oh, this is a sports podcast?
Take it or break it, right?
Oh, yeah.
Are we taking? Have I taken it or am I breaking it?
Yeah. 3 points.
Thank you. I need to win this episode. Am I beating Bob right now?
Yeah, of course you are.
Thank God.
Bob
I work.
Loves
you know what I mean? Oh, Bob. What can he teach us about terrible things happening in New York City?
Okay, so they're doing it slightly better than us.
But okay, so the amount of like hands in the pot on the billions of dollars sloshing around, and I think it's worth saying that like I think NoOlympics LA in particular, our primary critique of the games is not merely that like lots of public money is spent. Mm-hmm. You know, a lot of us are of various socialist bents. The idea of government spending money is not inherently problematic. What is problematic is where that money sloshes to when you have events like this that have a hard timeline on them. And it's something that Jules Boykoff wrote Power Games. He's amazing.
I just read Power Games. I also met Jules in person.
He also was on this trip.
Oh yeah, I knew that.
Yeah, with Davy Zirin.
Mm-hmm. How's Zirin looking?
But he talks about basically that it's and we talked about this on the last episode, that it's like an inverse of disaster capitalism. You have similar sorts of privatization forces and hard timelines working together to enclose parts of cities and turn what was public into something that can be profitable for a limited amount of people. Mm-hmm. And I think that is the lens that makes the most sense to understand like why the Olympics are kind of insane and corrupt. And when you think about like housing or remaking the city, to me, the Olympic Village in Tokyo was probably the most stark example of that. It was a chunk of like public waterfront space. It wasn't.
Are we talking about the 64 games or the current games?
Well, okay. So in the 64, this is a side note. In the 64 games, it's worth saying they displaced people to build the Olympic Village. They built public housing for them. They then tore that public housing down to build the Olympic Stadium for this Olympics. So people were displaced twice by the Olympics. And then the Olympic Stadium isn't even going to be on where their public housing was. But they didn't give that land back as public housing. They're building luxury condominiums on it.
They Chavez Ravined it.
Yep. Full Chavez Ravine, baby.
Yeah.
Yes. Full Chavez Ravine there. But the current Olympic Village, but that's more of like old school smash and grab sort of housing capitalism. Mm-hmm. What I think is interesting, and this is because I'm like a housing researcher and a total nerd, is what they're doing with this Olympic
nerd.
So this Olympic Village is being built on what was like public waterfront land. Mm-hmm. And again, I think it's worth saying this wasn't like some like amazing area that everybody used and they kicked them out. Or it was just like a strip of waterfront land, but the public owned it. And in order to build the Olympic Village, they sold it to developers at 1/10 of its assessed value. So that's, first of all, just like, here you go. Now build the Olympic Village. Mm-hmm. Government then subsidizes the construction of the Olympic Village. Jesus. So then it's like, well, okay, so we're building the Olympic Village, but the Olympic Village is typically built in like sort of a dormitory style. We're going to need to do a little bit of work if we're going to turn that into luxury condos. Now, mind you wouldn't have to do very much work to turn that into, say, public housing. But if you're going to turn it into luxury condominiums, you're going to need to really plus that bad boy up a little bit.
If you want to, if you are a private enterprise who is exploiting the kindness, I don't know what we would call it, of politicians who are trying to do everything they can to have the Olympics and also maybe private condominiums, you know how politicians are.
Yeah, they love them. Yeah. You know who's paying for 100% of the condominium conversion? The Tokyo municipal government. Heyo. Who's keeping 100% of the profits? The consortium of 11 major developers, including Mitsubishi and Tokyo, which is the biggest department store operator in Japan. So that's fun. That's just like a fun way of doing. Because what that does is like you're like like it's tough to like, because there's enough steps where it's private money. You're like, okay, I guess this is a public-private partnership, but really what it is a massive...
So it's the public subsidizing.
Yeah.
It's the I'm not even subsidizing. It's the public paying for the construction of luxury condominiums.
Yeah. In exchange for them being built and owned by some people. And it was interesting to hear one of the Japanese academics there sort of expand on Jules's theories and be like, yeah, this is like celebration capitalism, and there's also just like a notion of like, this is just gifts. And it's the politicians have decided to
It's
just
outright
give
graft.
gifts to rich people.
Yeah.
And the Olympics are a justification to give the biggest and best gifts for
Okay,
for
but
rich
that okay. Power broker thing.
Yeah.
There's a part in the Power Broker where Cairo writes about how Moses himself was not a corrupt guy. Well,
No, I know what you mean.
he
He's
wasn't.
not
He wasn't a
actively-
beneficiary. He wasn't an economic beneficiary of corruption, but that he was corrupt because everything he did sort of wormed through, a kind of public-private partnerships. The vision of a world as designed and executed by people who by wealthy people who had inherent interests.
Yeah.
And so what my question for you about these is it that thing? Is it the ruling class having its own back, or is it sort of actively corrupt and corrosive?
I think
we are giving
think
you money, you are going to build us something.
it is, in the case of Tokyo, 70-30 the former the latter. Obviously, the head of the JOC has been kicked out and indicted on active corruption charges.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some of that. But I'd say that and I think that's what it gets down to, is like our analysis, and this is why you can't just reform the games. Because like when you talk about like reforming the games, you like look at the corruption and maybe Rio, and you're like, well, if we just rooted out the corruption, it would be fine.
Yeah. But
like,
the problem is that the games before that were Beijing. It's that the games, it's that to these local people, the games are a weapon that they can use to reform the physical space of where they operate.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. That is fundamentally what I believe in.
Because every now Spike, the last time Spike talked to me about this, I was like, oh wow, and now I've read about the Olympics a bunch, and like basically everybody who's hosted the Olympics, every ruling class structure that has hosted the Olympics has used them to reform space and project something that they want to. Like Hitler did it, the Chinese did it in 2008. Like this is what everybody who has it does.
Yep. And that's why in this case, the two things that Japan is trying to project are peace, which is again, that's where to me the militarization of the public space shows the hypocrisy of that. And the other is recovery. And the reality on the ground of Fukushima and the way in which they're covering that up. And even just the little things like the construction workers willing to do the accelerated construction that's going to kill them at the national stadium. That's a specific class within Japan that is a mix of immigrants and the vestiges of an old caste system that dates back hundreds of years. Those people were taken away from the actual Fukushima recovery effort because, believe it or not, the only people willing to build on an accelerated timeline in 90% humidity and 100-degree heat in Tokyo are the same people willing to work with radioactive material. So the Olympics have slowed down the Fukushima recovery effort just on a basic who's going to do the work sort of level. So the blatant hypocrisy of what they're trying to project versus what is actually happening, I think that makes it even more insidious, because like what they're trying to project is itself problematic enough, but then they aren't even doing that. They're in fact doing the opposite, and they're doing it to remake cities on behalf of these power structures that you're speaking to. And to me, that makes it a force beyond your work-a-day corrupt stadium deal. And it makes it a force that I don't think you can really negotiate.
You can't tame it.
Yeah. And it's a really dangerous
it's a gun. Like, it's a gun.
Yep.
And like, what do you use a gun for?
Yep. Yeah. What do you
to
do?
To fuck. No,
so the thing I found while I was there, and it's something
I want to make it clear that I was trying to say that you stick the gun in your butt.
Oh, I thought I was going to put my tiny little penis in the bullet hole.
No.
Okay. Thank you. Can't believe I'm segueing from that to what I'm about to say. So the thing
Sorry, it was just getting a little heavy, you know?
I know. So to bring it back in that direction, the thing that I'm very interested in studying are the legal mechanisms that are employed to justify these sorts of space transformations. Because except in Beijing, you can just be like, let's do this thing.
The Chinese government is like, we are the Chinese government.
Yeah, game over.
Yeah.
But in California, it's more complicated than that. And building anything in California is really complicated because of a law called CEQA.
Can't even build a damn sandcastle without a permit.
Exactly. It's the California Environmental Quality Act. Now, this is a really complicated set of laws, and they require certain things to be done before anything happens in terms of building. Anything that could transform the environment in a permanent way has to be assessed, and there has to be public comment and input on it. Unless what you're doing is statutorily exempt. What are the sorts of things that are statutorily exempt? It's a lot of procedural stuff. It's basically like, well, if this is a permit for something that's already been permitted, we don't need to do a full review on a second permit. Or literally one of the things is, if we reject your permit, you don't still have to go to the public to vet this thing. Those are the sort of things that are statutorily exempt. Mm-hmm. One of the other things that's statutorily exempt is anything related to the Olympics except for full ground.
Cool, great. Fucking awesome. How did that happen?
The 70s. They just got it in there. And what that means is up to these CEQA things go to court. And so whether that's going to mean the narrowest version of that is basically being like, okay, when we do a 14-day road transformation to let the IOC have their express lane, we don't need to do an environmental review on it. We're just going to do it. That's the only thing that's
Wait,
applied.
I'm sorry, they're building an express lane in Los Angeles for the Olympics?
They won't build it. They'll just be like, you can't go for this week only, the carpool lane is for IOC members. That's what they do always.
What?
Yeah. Oh, hello. But that's the good version of what I'm talking
about. What?
Yeah. Hey, buddy, you know what the bad version is? The bad version is, I want to build a hotel, and I already have this land, and it happens to have a bunch of rent-stabilized units on it that house, I don't know, people who are poor and work in the city. And usually, to put that into a hotel, I need to go through
I want to turn this into a fucking hotel.
Corbin, that hotel's going to house people for the Olympics, baby. That's an Olympic project. This don't need no CEQA. Let's just do it, baby. Let's build. Let's kick those people out tomorrow. So, how things are going to land in that.
And let's just say it. LA has a hotel crisis.
LA's got a hotel crisis. Oh, yeah. We have 60,000 people unhoused on our streets every single night.
If we just had more hotel rooms, they'd be cheaper.
600,000 people in the county of Los Angeles pay 90% of their income or more in rent. 600,000. We're talking about converting naturally occurring affordable housing into hotels for the Olympics and being able to take away the environmental review as part of that process.
Now, once again, who wants that?
Well, and who wants it, and where was the precedent set? In Korea, in the run-up to the 2018 Olympic Games, they pulled a bunch of the environmental laws off the table, and specifically, they took away environmental review for construction for a 10-year period across the board. Now, that was mostly done so they could rip down a 1,000-year-old forest for 3 days of cross-country skiing events.
Well, thank God.
That was the main reason they did that.
Thank God.
But once they passed that law, it created the legal mechanism for hyper-gentrification in Seoul and other large cities that were nowhere near the Olympics. So because of this Olympic law that was passed to do something gross, what ended up happening was far grosser. What I'm interested in studying is how are those mechanisms used and then abused to remake space, which to me is why a city wants the Olympics. Los Angeles wants the Olympics. I mean, Casey Wasserman's the head of the bid, and he wants the Olympics because he runs a sports management and media firm, and he's funding a bunch of stuff, and he's doing, he's doing Casey Wasserman stuff, which, Can we talk Casey Wasserman for 1 second? Can I do the thing where I mention what Casey
ever?
Casey Wasserman recently locked his Twitter account. Oh. Weird, right? Yeah. Like a big famo like Casey Wasserman would lock his Twitter account.
Can you tell people who Casey Wasserman is real quick?
Casey Wasserman, grandson of Lou Wasserman, who's one of the old school studio heads of LA. Rich guy. He recently put his house on the market here in Los Angeles for $125 million.
That's it?
Yeah, for a house, baby. Seems like
I'm actually gonna buy it and build affordable housing.
I love you, Corbin. I want to marry you. Casey Wasserman runs Wasserman, which is a sports agency. He reps people like Megan Rapinoe. Weirdly, reps a lot of the U.S. Women's National Team.
Wow, interesting.
They also invest in I think they have not a controlling stake, but a significant stake in Vox. Rumored that they have a big stake in the Ringer. Unclear. Just asking questions. Casey Wasserman is like a big, rich, sort of fail grandson, if you will. Casey Wasserman locked his Twitter account. What would have happened in the news recently that would cause Casey Wasserman to lock his Twitter account? Casey Wasserman is on a certain flight log.
Oh! Man, wow. You know what? Honestly, I can't believe it's taken this long for Jeffrey Epstein shit to get to take it or break it.
Who is he on the plane with? Not just Jeffy.
Oh, he was with William Jefferson, was he?
Not just William Jefferson. Who else was on that plane? Who else was on that plane? You're going to like this, because you're not going to believe it.
Was he with
Kevin Spacey.
Oh, I thought it was going to be Donald Trump.
Sorry. I just like that because it's just like a random bonus ghoul. It's just like, let's just throw another ghoul in the plane. Mm-hmm. Also, weirdly on that flight, Chris Tucker. Don't know what that's all about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's been a lot of what's up with this Chris Tucker stuff.
Yep. So anyway, that's the guy. So for him, the Olympics make sense just from he's a gross dude who maybe does gross things, but really he just wants to build his sports business. For the city, the people, the elected officials who take a lot of money from developers, we currently have one city council member under indictment and four others under investigation in a 15-person city council for taking bribes from foreign developers.
That would be a third of the city council, wouldn't it?
It's pretty sick. Our DWP, a couple people in the mayor's office, a lot of people under investigation. The FBI, this is my favorite detail. When the FBI raided Jose Huizar's office, he's a city council member here. He's the one who I believe is under active indictment. They used thumb drive sniffing dogs to find USB sticks hidden in the wall with information on them.
What does a thumb drive smell like?
Don't know, but dogs can find them.
You know what? God bless those sons of bitches.
So they do that, and then they just walk out with a big cardboard box that apparently was also in his office that just says, with a Sharpie written on the side, that just says donations in all capital letters. So they bring in, we're going to train these dogs and find all the data. And they're like, oh, this box has all the information we need. This cardboard box that says...
maybe those thumb drive sniffing dogs are going to come in handy sooner or later, though,
Yeah, well, I mean, look, the Reborg X's are going to need pets.
Yeah, Jesus.
Oh, Corbin, it was an unbelievable trip. I mean, the other thing is, so I've just said a bunch of bad stuff. Being there in solidarity with all these activists, and, I'm learning from them. I learned all this stuff from talking to the people who've been doing the work on the ground in Tokyo, in Korea, in Paris, in Rio. And that aspect of it, that sort of global solidarity, unprecedented in the history of Olympic activism, and it felt really powerful.
Do you think that you're going to be able to start that y'all are going to be able to start a sort of international coalition?
That's the idea. We passed a solidarity statement as five orgs doing that. The idea is that in the future that we can, as other countries are affected by this, we can essentially onboard them into understanding how insidious these power structures are and be able to build these movements up the earlier, as early as possible. The earlier, the better, in terms of being oppositional. Mm-hmm. Demanding democratic input. All of the cities I just listed, none of them got a referendum on the games. There was no direct democracy on them. No countries are passed. No one can get a referendum through right now. all the countries that are hosting games are ones where the leaders were like, we're just not going to do that. Not a coincidence. So yeah, and we like protested on the streets of Tokyo, which is not a normal thing to do there quite the same way, but it was really powerful, really visible, disruptive without ever being even the slightest bit violent. Like it's like, I know. There's like a little bit of that, but also like really like I think we were able to publicly get our message out in a way that I didn't know if we would be able to. And it's a real testament to the organizational work of the organizations in Japan and everybody who came on board. Like, there was a lot of information passed around, learned so much just being there. But it's also like these connections that we made, and like having Jules there to research and write and deepen his understanding of it.
So handsome too. So handsome.
Oh, Jules?
Yeah.
Oh my God, Jules is a rock star. People would just come up to him and make him like sign Power Games, like he was like the Beatles. I don't know. It was just, like he'd walk into a room, people would be like, "Oh, Boykov-san!" It was great. So good.
It was great.
It was so good. The anti-Olympic like scholar is like a rock star. Amazing.
I'm not gonna talk. I might have Jules on someday. Maybe I'll talk about.
Yes, please do. You should. He's amazing.
I met with him.
I know.
Okay. Yeah.
How was it?
It's good.
Yeah, he's like so nice. Yeah, he's genuinely that nice. He's the sort of person who's so nice where I'm like, you really that nice? I'm like, just like good-hearted and
you think that when he goes home, he's like, I want to cut Spike Friedman's dick off.
Oh, I hope not.
Yeah, me too.
I think Jesus. I really hope not.
Yeah. I mean, I've done it. We've all done it. But...
Yeah. And I'll just say, oh boy, like a lot of the activists who came over from Los Angeles are working on the criminalization of the unhoused that's currently happening here. Mm-hmm. And having them be able to build connections with the unhoused in not just Tokyo, but Osaka and Kyoto as well, and the activists working there. Again, this is just like really powerful and amazing stuff that doesn't normally get to happen.
Can we talk about something unrelated that's related to what you're talking about right now?
Absolutely.
Did you see the Seattle homelessness app thing?
Oh, where it's basically you report on people?
Yeah. Where it's an app and you use it to tell people where the homeless are.
Yeah, we have that in LA.
You do? Gross.
Yeah, well, it's gross. Well, you want to hear the really gross thing?
Do I?
Our mayor, Dr. Eric Garcetti, the doctor. He's not really a doctor.
I didn't know that. No.
He's a jerk.
He's just a jerk? Do you think doctors are jerks?
No.
In fairness, the last time you went to a doctor, you know what he told you? To go see Pagliacci. Okay. Which is really fucked up because guess what?
What?
You're Pagliacci.
Yeah.
So I would understand if you didn't like doctors very much.
No. Eric Garcetti went out with like some reporters to like go talk to homeless people, and one of the things he said to the reporters is like, "Wow, it's crazy to have as much power as I do because I could pull the strings to get this person housed." 3 days later, someone comes out to the homeless person he was talking to in that moment, and they sweep and throw away all of their stuff because Garcetti's aide called in a sanitation sweep on them. Mm-hmm. So that's fun.
In the app, the Seattle app, it says something along the lines of like, you really need to report these people because it's unsanitary and unsafe for them to be living like that. And it's just like, okay, so what are you going to do? So like if I report somebody on my homeless app, so that means you're going to get them, a social worker, somewhere to sleep, warm meal, right? That's what's going to happen if I do that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's the police.
Oh, no. We're going to take all their stuff, stick it in a garbage bag, and throw them in lockup overnight.
Yeah. Well, we took all of our public housing money and, invested in prison. So that's fun. Mm-hmm. That's good.
Cool. Yeah. Wait, who's we?
America.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought you meant Seattle.
No, I was thinking more LA.
Oh.
But also Seattle, all the country as a whole basically did it. Yeah. So if you take nothing else away from this hour-plus long conversation about the Olympics, let me just say, can I put in a plug for public housing?
Yeah, I think you did that last time.
One more time.
Yeah. Public housing. Anyway, so they're doing homeless sleeps in Japan.
Oh, yeah. And they have they used to just house people, which is something that we talk about a lot, of the difference between the right to shelter versus the right to housing. Japan was housing people who were unhoused when they wanted houses. And so the unhoused population was really limited there. And instead of doing that now, they're using the stick rather than the carrot. Because, again, the Olympics create a timeline. They don't have the time to do things right, so they do things with cops.
Did you manage to get out to Disneyland Tokyo?
You know I did. You know that I did.
What'd you ride?
Okay, so we did like a late night time in the Tokyo Disneyland, which is their main park, and rode the Winnie the Pooh ride there.
Mm-hmm. What's the Pooh ride there? Is it the dark ride or is it the?
It's a dark ride. It's called Pooh's Honey Hunt, but it's on a trackless system.
Uh-huh.
So like you're in like a honey pot, and it like you think you're on like a train, but actually all the honey pots are independent and move independently, and you start dancing with like heffalumps and woozles in their own honey pot. Mm-hmm. Unbelievable dark ride. One of the best I've ever been on.
Did they get rid of Mr. Toad's Wild Ride for it though?
In Tokyo? I don't know if they ever had Toad. Okay. I think the only Toad installation left is at Disneyland. They got rid of the one in Florida. I don't know if they got rid of it for Winnie the Pooh. Maybe they did. Doesn't matter.
I think they still have the one in LA, right? That's the main one that I think I'm like, you can never get rid of Mr. Toad's Wild Ride.
Yeah. One of the fun things about Mr. Toad's Wild Ride is you go to hell
at the end. You go to hell.
And it's physically hot in there.
Yep.
How were they able to permit like weird heaters in like a wooden structure like that? Technically, the hell room is a sauna. Oh. And they got it permitted as a sauna. That's a fun Mr. Toad's Ride fact. But then we spent a full day at Tokyo Disney Sea, which is maybe the best theme park I've ever been to. Journey to the Center of the Earth is maybe the best dark ride I've ever been on. And it's just like the level and intricacy of the design there is through the roof excellent. I wouldn't say the rides are necessarily better than the ones in California, and certainly not better than like the Pirates ride in Shanghai, which is the best thing I've ever been on in my life. But the walking around the park vibes and feel of the place is just out of control. And it's so good.
I've been reading, I recently finished a lengthy biography of Walt Disney.
Oh boy.
And
didn't like the unions.
Really didn't like unions. Oh boy. Really not fond of unions. Also did the thing where he was like, we used to all be in this together, but then the union came, and it's just like, Walt.
Yeah.
But anyway, I also really love Disneyland.
When are you coming down here next? When we going to? Have you been to Star Wars Land yet? Probably not.
I'm not. I haven't had any goddamn money.
It's very expensive.
I gotta get there.
You know what's cool about Japanese Disneyland?
What?
Half the price. Everything there is half the price of our Disneyland. Ooh. Still wildly expensive. Still like a $70 ticket or whatever. But you know, like a meal there is like $8. It's like totally reasonable.
Oh, shit. Can you bring food into California Disneyland?
Yes.
Okay.
I do.
So I can bring like some protein bars.
Oh yeah, protein bars. I'll bring a bag of pretzels. Nosh on that.
Cool. Always good to hear about Spike's various Disneyland adventures.
Yeah, I didn't get to go to Nagashima Spa Land, which is a bummer. They've got a good array of roller coasters. Same with Fuji-Q Highland, though I hear the operations there are a nightmare.
Oaks Park. You get out to Oaks Park?
I have not been to Oaks Park. We've talked about this, but they put in a Gerstlauer Infinity roller coaster not too long ago.
Oh, hi.
Maybe like a year ago. It's like what's it called? Like Peak. It's something Peak, Adrenaline Peak, I think.
I don't know. I don't get out to Oaks Park very often. Maybe like, you think maybe I should like get the crew together?
Go to Oaks Park? Yeah. It's pretty.
I didn't like roller coasters when I was.
By the way, Corbin, can I just say that it is called Adrenaline Peak, and I was able to name a roller coaster in Oregon that I've never been on or two.
No, I admire it, honestly.
Thank you.
When I was a kid, I didn't like roller coasters.
Yeah?
Almost because I was scared of the fear, you know?
Yep, 100%.
But I think that I'm in a place now where I understand that fear isn't scary anymore.
It's kind of fun.
Yeah, and maybe I need to get out to Oaks Park and confront some of my demons.
I believe in you. You should go do it. It's fun. It looks like a fun ride. I've been on a couple Gerstlauers. I've been on a Hang Time.
Is Gerstlauer a fella?
Probably. It's a company.
Oh, okay.
They make Eurofighters and Infinity coasters. Actually, now that I think about it, I don't know if
they also make the F-35.
Yeah, they are a subcontractor of Raytheon. No, they are German. They were founded by Hubert Gerstlauer, apparently, in 1981 in Germany.
Oh, thank God. I was worried you were going to say in 1930.
1936, they were founded by the Olympics.
Can you believe that?
They have a incredible installation at Fuji-Q Highland called Takabisha, but I didn't get to ride it.
This is something I really want people to remember about the Olympics. When they do the torch relay, Goebbels came up with that.
Yeah. The Goebbels.
Yeah.
Not a Goebbels.
Yeah.
The one.
Can you imagine being like Dave Goebbels? This is all. Yeah.
Hitler.
Yeah. This is all to say, like, you know, this is not an organization that is concerned with the effect it has on people.
No. Well, kind of. They're concerned with the effect it has on rich people.
Yeah, which is they would like to put their hogs in their mouth.
Yeah, they're certainly not concerned
and go slurpy slurp.
The effect on, like, say, the athletes.
No, or the various people who get displaced.
Yes,
or just anybody except for rich developers, or the Chinese government, which is also gross.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was like an unfortunate thing that we weren't able to do is like there are not public organizing. There's not the same sort of organizing around the Olympics in Japan in a public way the way there is in all these other countries. I will also say, can I just put in a plug for how cool the South Korean delegation was?
Sure, go right ahead.
They have like awesome masks and like do like occupations of buildings where people are being displaced and like get tear gas all the time and like fight and stuff. They were cool. They're so much cooler than me. It's tough.
Oh, I'm sorry. Are you okay?
No, yeah, it's fine. But they were just like so cool and like also had like really good politics and they were just like good.
And like your politics are like fine.
Yeah, at best.
Well, Spike, we talked about Tokyo Disneyland. That's why I had you here.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. I think it's important to talk about
Tokyo Disneyland and the Mariners. So Spike, you're gonna have something to Deadspin soon.
Yes, something to Deadspin soon. Probably something on the NoOlympics blog about robots, because something that's pretty wild is the LA Times actually had a reporter out there while we were there, and he did not report on the counter protests or even really what was happening on the ground. He just wrote like 2 dispatches about robots, but didn't talk about the security robots. He just talked about cute robots, and I was like, are you kidding me?
I will also probably be writing something about the Olympics sooner or later. Keep an eye out.
Good.
All right, that's all. Thanks for joining us, Spike.
Yeah, thank you for
before we leave, I just want to say, still not quite sure what we're doing long term, but
about the Olympics or just like the world.
No, with Take It or Break It.
Oh,
because we shut our Patreon down. I don't know if you.
I didn't know that. I thought I was still paying you. I didn't know.
No, you're not. Or I hope you're not, because I canceled my account and everything.
Well, it's giving you money.
Well, you don't. So, it's fine. You don't need to give me money.
I'll just start Venmoing you, I guess.
I guess if you want to, but I don't need. I would be a little mortified. Yeah, still not 100% sure what we're gonna do. This is what I'll tell the audience who likes the show. It's probably still going to exist.
I don't think probably, definitely.
You know what? It's certainly still going to exist.
Great.
I'm not 100% sure what form it's going to take.
Yeah.
And a little piece of me is thinking that maybe it'll take a lot of forms. So,
ooh, I like that.
Thank you, Spike. Thanks. But at the very least, the opportunity to talk to guys like Spike about stuff like this and, people like that is just too good to pass up. And so, I'm still going to continue doing that and doing other fun stuff. So thank you for joining me, Spike.
Did I beat Bob?
Yeah, of course.
Great. Another W. Another take it or break a W for old Spike.
Yeah. And thank you, everybody, for listening. Rate and review on iTunes, and have a wonderful day.